I have had a unusual request, but one that I'm stepping up to the plate to do, and it's from a repeat client, and it's to paint a sorrel horse that has a white blanket as a marking, a white blanket, and then a goat that is traveling behind the horse. Now I'm going to say I did cheat a little bit here, because this is a memory of someone that she's trying to recapture, a good friend of hers. She's trying to recapture this childhood memory of this person that she's going to gift the painting to. So I did a Chat GPT. Follow along as I try to create a very special memory for someone. This will be episode 1. Please join me. Now we're going to get the white out here right now. The composition is pretty much set up for me, except I don't want the goat to come out any further than here. And he's like on the painting or the image, he's like right here. So, and the horse, I don't want him to come up any higher than here. And he can be like right about here as far as his hoofs. All right, so let me just do a few general shapes. So the one shape has to be right here. Okay, and then the next shape is like this. And then the shoulder is here, there's a belly here, and then there's a rump right here. Okay, and then the legs would come down like that. All right, now, and the tail would be like right here. So we're gonna start with this part here. Some people draw with chalk or charcoal or even pencil. I don't. Conti crayons. I don't do any of that. I draw with my pigments. Now we'll get the little goat in. He comes here, and then his neck comes up here. His ear is here. His head comes up. I'm using my brush to determine the proper location for the legs. And doing the same thing on the source, I found that the legs start closer to the left side of the goat's face. I think we got it now. So I'm going to do the marking here. There's a marking here and a marking here. There's a nosy. I'm not sure yet about horns. Now we're going to put a tree like right here, because that's what it shows. And there's a little bit of a fence here. Which is a cloud. The sky kind of comes in like that. There's a cloud here. A little bit more sky there. Here is a shrubbery. Okay, and the rest of this comes in kind of like so here. It's very dark through here because this is all in shadow from their cast shadows. All right, let's see what she says. I'm going to send her a photo of that. If she approves, we will move forward. She approved. My first thought is to get the sky in. The sky color is a mixture of ivory black and ultramarine blue, and then white added to that. Artists are told never to use a black in their palette. Are you one of them? Please leave me a comment. I'd be curious. I know I was one. Actually, when I was in school, and that was a while ago now, the Impressionists never used ivory black or any kind of black. And so everyone was kind of following their lead at that time. But since then, there have been more and more artists, contemporary artists, who are indeed using ivory black. And guess what? If you put a lot of white to ivory black, you're going to get a very neutral blue. Now I'm trying to build up a cloud structure here. So you'll notice that the part closest to the horse is much grayer than the sky. And then I'm going to introduce some gold ochre into the upper part or the lighter part of the cloud. And then I'll be using brushwork to blend it. Now I've pulled out my number 10 brush. I need a wider brush to do the blending here. I want the upper part of the cloud to look a little wispy into the sky, and I find that my bigger brush does a better job at that. I'm using very, very light pressure. And here I'm going to add some 3D effects to the cloud by lightening it up and bringing it into the shadow. So it looks like there's another cloud in front. Now we're beginning the block in. Now when I say block in, from the sky, which I did fully, I'm not going to make any more changes to the sky. But you're going to see a different technique now when it comes to the rest of the painting, and it's called a block in. And this block in is just the base tone of whatever the object is. So in this case, we're painting in a green tree. And I'm putting in a medium to dark tone. The tree is on the dark side. So I'm putting in what I consider a base color. And there may be some variations to this color, but there by no means is this a build-up to a final product. This is kind of like scrubbing in, but it's known as the block-in. And block-ins, again, are just base colors. You're looking for the right value, which means how light and how dark it is, and you're always comparing it to another object in the painting while you're doing the block-in. Now you notice here that these mountains that I'm putting in real quick, they're on the blue side. Why is that? Because they are in the atmosphere. So that means with atmospheric perspective, the further back into the sky an object is, like mountains, the more blue they become. And that's what I'm capturing right now. Just to note that any grass area in front of the horse and the goat, that would be more on the warmer side, or yellow, orangish mixtures in with that green that I would use. And here we're beginning the cast shadow. I have said this before, but I'll say it again. Cast shadows are only dark in photographs. Now, yes, it's going to be darker, but it's not going to be like a black value range like you would see in a photograph. We're just finishing up this overall block in, and now we're going to start the block in on the horse and the goat. And I'm going to start with the darkest dark, which is being applied right now. And then I will move on to the next value and completing the block in on the horse before I move on to the goat. Now, I'm not going to be concerned at this point about, accuracy, especially with developing the legs. I will spend quite a bit of time trying to get the muscle structure, bone structure, and all of that. I'm just looking to get some color down so I can judge the values and see how the whole thing works together. That's a little hard to understand, especially if you're a new artist, but it's really the way you want to do things. You might be able to tell that these mixtures are on the thin side, and you want to keep your starting mixtures thin, which means there's medium mixed into these, and my medium is liquid. Sometimes, however, lately, I have been using Gamsol, but for the most part, I only use my liquid to thin out paint. And the reason you want to keep your mixtures thin is because you want to obey the fat over lean. So this is the lean part. And then when we get done with the entire block in and we start developing each element in the painting, we will apply thicker mixtures. And we will not have cracking because we did the fat over lean method. This stage of a painting is affectionately called the ugly stage. And looking at it, can you see why it's called the ugly stage? I mean, really, when I would do this years ago, I would kind of panic because I didn't know what to do next. But I do know what to do next now. And so this kind of stage thing here does not bother me like it used to. But yes, this is the ugly stage of a painting, and every painting has one. The block-in is pretty much complete, and I'm deciding that I'm going to try to do some work on the background tree. Now, the first thing I noticed is that the value is off. So I'm darkening it up, and then I'm going to lighten it up on the top and hopefully get it blended in to the sky better than it is. You might also notice that because it is darker uh, where that tree is, it brings forward the goat, which is something I wanted to do. I'm going to get my gel medium out right now. Here's the gel medium. The gel medium adds viscosity or thickness to the pigments that I just mixed up. Also try to push this in. Let's try to mix it with what's down there. I gotta lighten that up. Okay, I'm kind of liking that. All right, you see me now using this large brush. I'm barely touching it to the surface, but what it's doing is it's blending, but also evening up the brushwork so that there isn't patches of glare. This brush is always kept dry. When I'm finished doing what I'm doing, I will just keep vigorously brushing it up against a cloth to clean out any paint residue. And I would say that it is okay. Popping up on your screen is another video that I think you would enjoy.